Thanks, Mark. As he said, we are a B2B marketing agency helping our customers to get medium and large enterprises to read their content. If I would just say it in one simple sentence, essentially we work to align their marketing to reach their business goals in terms of sales and revenue. And so without further ado, I'm going to talk a little bit about that, and I'll start, as promised, talking about content marketing. Why should you bother? I think that's the first thing we're going to tackle in this, and we're going to spend a lot of time about that because I definitely get asked a lot about that when I'm talking to potential customers and customers in general, and people all the time are asking me, why should we bother? And then after we get over that, we can talk about what it is, content marketing, what is content marketing, and go along and get some actual tips on how to do it, how can we do it better, and then we can finish up with some questions and answers. I have some of my experts on hand to help me answer some of those questions as they come in, namely my partner, Neely Mulden. So that's it. So why should you bother? I think the best way to do it is to start from the end and show you some interesting results that we've gotten from some of our customers. And I'll take one use case in particular and share some results. I'll go start from the end. So if you're looking at the screen I just shared, you'll see a graph that gradually and then quickly goes up. I'm from Canada. We call it the hockey stick. And basically what you're seeing here is in 2013, this customer was a technology company in the San Jose area, was doing some marketing online. And what you're seeing is a result of all of their social marketing and content over 2013 or the end of 2013. And in 2014, they decided that they must be doing something wrong because they're hearing about all these other great results that their competitors are getting, and why aren't they seeing similar results in that area? They started talking to us in January, and some of the things that we did there I'm going to talk about throughout this webinar. But like I said, this is the reason why you should bother, because once we sat and talked to them about how and what they were doing, we were able to increase their results many times fold, and not only increase the amount of visits, which you can see in the bottom part of the graph, but on the top is the actual leads that were generated, which were really high quality leads. 50% of them were sales ready, and in the end, the cost per lead was down by more than 33%. So at the end result, more sales reps were making their quota, which I think is a good thing. And just to give a quick, one of the tools that we use, and we'll talk a little bit about tools, is definitely we were using Oktopost, and at that in the link, this is a screenshot of the last period of working with them, and you can see that a quick overview of the posts, the clicks, and most importantly, the conversions that we were able to generate for this company over the past month, and those are the types of results that really push people to want to use content marketing, and that's part of what we're going to talk about some more. I'm not done explaining why, and I think that this is one case. I think there's some more information and less that they'll go through. One of them is, as you can see here, from a Forrester quote, most of your potential buyers are engaging with you much earlier and coming to you when they're ready. What does this mean? The good news of this is by the time the buyers get to you, they've practically made up their mind. They're 70% of the way through the buying process. So there's a very important takeaway here, and that is that buyers do almost all of their research online on their own, and that two, they're not willing or interested in speaking to you until they've made that 70% of that journey. So what that really means is that you need to be educating them, and that's really what content marketing is all about. And if you're looking for bad news, the only bad news is if you're not doing the educating, and your competitors are. So another way to look at this is this is the journey your customers are taking. They're searching, they're reading more, they're interacting with other people using your product or products like the ones you have, and finally, hopefully, they're contacting you when they're ready to buy. So what can you do to make make more people contact you, really. And there's a lot of answers that you may be hearing around. People throw around the words like SEO, content, case studies, blogs. Those are pretty much all of the above are great answers, but the idea at the end of the day is to do it properly and do it right. So really what we need is to create a content machine that will correctly educate and take those buyers through the process and allow them to make the right decision, which is to buy my product, your product. And that's really important to understand. And just a word of caution, companies that meet their customers tend to try to meet their prospects too early in the process will waste a lot of their time, and it's better to continue to educate them until they're ready. And that's where what we talk about, we call it lead nurturing, and content is really a big part of that. Okay, so really what we're saying is you got to give in order to get, and you want to give people what they want, and that's another important idea that we'll talk about. How do you give them what they want? How do you know what they want? So really the content marketing benefits is we need to figure that out and then feed it. And we call it the marketing machine. You feed the marketing machine because people really do want to learn, and we need to give them what they want. And so the people that are out there that maybe are on the sales side of the house are thinking, oh, how do I help that process along? How do I tell, because I want to, at the end of the day, you want to make sales, and what a lot of salespeople will tell you, and I've worked a lot in sales, and what I know is relationships are really key to making those sales. So essentially, content marketing is about building those relationships with our future customers way before they decide or are ready even to buy or talk to us. So how can you build those relationships without even talking to them? Some people might say that that's impossible, but that's really what social media is all about, and that's what's happening today. People are creating relationships before even meeting you. And in a relationship, if you think about any important relationship you have in your life, what is the most important part? And that is the first impression. How can you make a good first impression when you're not even there to make it? So if you think about every piece of content you put out there, whether it's a blog, a Twitter post, a product page, whatever it is, what really helps people move along is they like to engage not only people they have relationships with, but people who are companies that are thought leaders. And like this slide says, it's not something you can just claim. It's something that you need to earn. And once you've earned it, it obviously will make that buying process easier for your customers, because who doesn't want to do business with a thought leader? That's easier said than done. Not all of us are working for IBM or some of the other big companies out there, but I think that, again, back to social media, that's something that's really leveling the playing field. And any one of us we all have specific expertise, either ourselves or within our companies, and we can help other people who need that, whether they need to buy our products or not. And again, back to what we talked about before, that's how we can build relationships. That's how we can give to get and help our bottom line. So those of you who are convinced, we'll continue to the more what is content marketing and a little bit about how. If you're not convinced, well, we can talk more about that afterwards, or if you have questions, please tweet them or add them to the question forum. Okay, so what is content? Anything that educates your audience. That really is what content is. We touched on it before, that any piece of content can be this your first impression, and that makes every piece of content you put out there, no matter how short, even if it's 140 characters on Twitter, that makes it super important, even if it's your competitor saying it. So be aware, and then let's talk a little bit about developing a content strategy. And here's a reminder of what our hashtag is. So if anybody wants to use it, go ahead. Okay, so where do we start? Okay, we've worked with many companies who've got a lot of content. We've got companies that we've worked with that have no content. In both cases, there's still the question comes to where should we start? And we usually start in all cases at the same place. We need to do the research. It's an obvious thing to say, but many people haven't done their research. Because when I say do the research, I'm really talking about looking deeply into who our potential buyers are. In a medium-sized enterprise, the average decision to buy something is done by 7 people, and it can go up to as many as 20 in larger enterprises. That's a lot of people to influence. Imagine you have to do that one at a time. So when you're doing your research, you need to make sure your content will speak to each one of them and address their unique needs. Seems like a big challenge, and it is, but it can be done. So, content marketing is really a lot more than just writing a few blogs and waiting for someone to engage and retweet and all that. It's a lot more than that, and it involves doing some deeper research and creating what a lot of people call personas. Who are those people? And I we work with companies that we even give them names: John, Jim, Jane, however it works for it. But at the end of the day, we need to create those personas so that when we are creating the content, and we'll talk a little more about that, we are guiding them to the right people. In fact, I talk about great content marketing. I received an email today from a company that does social media automation tools named Marketo. I'm not sure if you've heard of them, but they do a great job of content marketing, and they sent me a whole guide on how to create a great persona. So if you want, you can Google that. I'm sure you'll find it, and you'll see that it says there that doing it properly will determine what kind of content you need. It'll set the tone and delivery strategies for your content, target the topics you should be writing about, and understand where buyers go to get their information and how they can consume it. So it's not only what content we need to build. So we've got great content, and we'll talk about what we do with it afterwards, but also understanding where your buyers are. So for me, who am I trying to reach with Penguin Strategies? I am targeting, for the most part, marketing execs who spend a lot of time in LinkedIn groups. There's more than 2 million LinkedIn groups, and 40% of the LinkedIn people on LinkedIn will actually participate in discussions on those groups. So just as a side note, that probably means that most of you have audiences that are actually there on a daily basis. So you might want to think about that. What do my marketing executives care about? They care about a lot of things, but automation tools is a big part of what they're always looking for and interested in talking about and learning more about, and how to implement them. And that's where that's a lot of where I come in. So that's how I start that's where I start, and when I want to decide to produce content. So that's in front of me on my whiteboard on the wall when I'm working. And the next step that we take after we've done the research is we start brainstorming. That's super important. Once we have it, we want to brainstorm. We want to talk to as many people as we can to create topics to write about. It's not enough to come up with great topics by yourself. You want to make sure it's for the right to the right audiences. It's great to talk to customers, prospects. Not only is that possible, so another great resource that you have in your organization is your sales teams. Think about talking to them. They're talking to customers on a daily basis. They know what's bothering them, what's bugging them. Sales engineers, any of those things. You can take a peek at your competition. Don't copy them. Just make it better. And and then the type of content, we have a few up here on this screenshot, but there's many more. You can do videos and case studies and blog series. It's never ending. And then the more creative you are, the better the possibilities are. So develop those ideas. So now you've got the ideas. Now we want to develop them, and nobody can really be an expert on everything. Remember, these are subjects that I just mentioned here are potentially subjects I might be an expert on. But if I'm working with a customer, or even if I'm a marketing person in a big organization, I can't be an expert on every product, and that's where the experts come in. I need to find those experts, and they're everywhere. They're in your organization, your customers' organizations. You need to talk to them and develop those ideas to make sure you bring something new to your content, not giving more of the same. And when you talk to experts, they love talking and explaining about their product. To be a product manager and a product engineer, a solution architect, whatever those titles that are inside of your organization, those are the ones that you want to be talking to. And they can help you develop, whatever the piece of content that you need. Another hidden gem we've found within our customers is sales engineers. They've got the best war stories, and people love reading them. So think about that. So take advantage of all those resources. They're there, and they're more approachable than you might imagine. It doesn't always have to be a phone call or a meeting. You can be through email. Something we've found recently very, very helpful is, because we work with some very busy people, is that they can record things while they're driving on their smartphone and then send us the recording, and we can turn that into a piece of content. So that, again, that's a tip that we found very, very helpful. Now you got to write it. You just got to do it. That's it. We've collected the information. We've done the research. We've got to create that content and make it great, make it awesome. So it's not enough to have great content. We've talked about that, or that it's an important piece of the process. But we need to get people to read it. We want to get the right people to read it. So this is where the next step comes in. We rely heavily on social media, not only, but social media, email, and there's many other ways that people talk about, but we'll focus on the social media part. What you're seeing here is a post that my co-founder, Neely, I mentioned her before, created through Oktopost. It includes all the tips we've discussed and the results that go with it until now. So if we look at step one, we've created an important piece of content, which is written to our marketing execs that we talked about a few slides ago. It's talking about social media automation tools, comparing some of the best in the business, and explaining some things about it. Remember, we're talking to companies and helping them use those tools, and so that's important for them to see us as leaders in that area. The next step is the post. It's the distribution and the message. We see a lot of mistakes made here in that people like to, they go into a blog or their own blog, and then they tweet it or they post it, and they're just basically taking the title of the blog and using that as a message. But what we want to do on social media, especially in LinkedIn groups, is we want to create a discussion. And so we need to take a deeper look into what our customers or potential prospects are interested in, and create a conversation with them. So that is very, very important, and that's where generating interest. So if we've created the right title and we've done 1 and 2 properly, number 3 should be great. And you can see that this particular post has already 35 comments, and it's 14 days old. Now that's another interesting point here. In Facebook and Twitter, great tools on their own. When we put a post up, in a couple of hours, it's going to be gone. This is a post that happened 14 days ago, and if you go into the LinkedIn group, it'll be pretty much all the way near the top. So it's still relevant 14 days after the post. And we'll see actually some more information about this particular post within the Oktopost in a minute. But step 4 is even more important, is building the relationships. Remember, this is, if you're thinking back when I was talking about building relationships through content, even though I explained it, I still get the questions, how can you really do it? And here's where you can do it. People are talking to you, responding, and this is a direct link to potential customers, to the outside, without actually meeting or talking to them. And it's very important to keep track of those discussions and nurture the position yourself as the thought leaders. And of course, that will build the relationships. So that's all done. That's all needs to be done through the use of proper tools, unless you're planning on doing it manually. Just another example of a post I did 9 months ago, which still brings in comments on a weekly basis, is here. It's the same example. This is actually not for my company, but for one of my customers, which is not which is a technology company, and here you can see as well. We put a lot of effort into figuring out what would be interesting for the potential customers or potential prospects for that customer, and bring in the discussion. This particular one has already 52, and I can tell you that there was a huge amount of discussion, and it got pretty heated, which is always a good thing. So how does that post look in Oktopost? First of all, this is an extremely successful post, and we got a lot of clicks, a lot of conversions. A lot of people from this blog moved into other areas and came and asked to download information. So it was a very successful post, and there's no reason why any of you, after going through some of these tips, can't do the same thing. I mentioned before that this tool is not, what you're seeing here is not only being able to see the results of this particular post, because that comes up in reporting, but what you're seeing is a tool that allows me to respond and keep the discussion ongoing without having to go into each group. So this is part of what the Oktopost tool actually gives us. And finally, the screen that we saw pretty much near the beginning, everything needs to be tracked. And metrics are super important, and bringing us back to what we talked about at the beginning. This is why we need to be doing content marketing, so that we have these types of results. So done right, you will increase your activity, your demand, and generate higher quality leads, which at the end, we hope your graph will end up looking like this, and increasing your revenue from your content. So I think I was going to promise at the beginning that I'll keep it short, so I'll promise at the end, and this is really the last slide. So I'm going to hand it back to Mark to field the questions that have come in, and feel free to continue tweeting. And thank you very much. And you want to contact me, but I'll be answering questions now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for that. I'm just going to go ahead and. All right, so we've gotten some great questions throughout the presentation, and I wanted to thank you personally. I got some really great tips from the presentation. I guess one of the most interesting questions I'm looking at here is how have you seen content marketing develop over the years from when I guess you started in this business until what it is today?
Okay. If I understood, I just want to make sure I repeat the question. How have I seen content marketing progress over the years?
Yes, that was the question. Yep.
Okay. So I have. What I would say is that it is a constantly progressing part of marketing. I think 10 years ago, when I started in what was called product management and business development, it wasn't called content marketing, but it was there. There was more of there was more of an effort on the physically meeting people side, meaning going to conferences, which is still important today, and sending out brochures and emails. So it was important, but it's come to a point where today it's a lot easier to transmit or to get out there with the tools and the way that social media has grown in popularity. So I think what the difference is that in order to educate 10 years ago, you had to actually physically go out and educate over the phone, in person, or through email. Where today you can educate it in a much softer way, in
We're getting some really great questions here. Here's an interesting question, and you answer the first part of this question, and I'll answer the second. So the question is, have you found it limiting that Oktopost does not have a mobile app? And do you know if that's in the development pipeline? So I'll allow you to answer that first part, and I'll touch on the second part.
Okay, I apologize. Can you say the first part of the question again?
The question was, have you found it limiting that Oktopost does not have a mobile app? And do you know if that's in the development pipeline? So I'll answer the second part of that question, and you can touch on the first part if you'd like.
Okay, so okay, now I got it. Buffer app has a mobile app, and Oktopost does not. Yes, we obviously have a very the mobile side of it is very important for me and my staff because we're not always in front of a computer. Thankfully, we do use multiple amount of tools. I will not lie. Although the bulk of our work is done over Oktopost, and the fact is that Oktopost recently has support for mobile. It just been keeping it under the radar. I'll let Mark expand on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the Oktopost application is mobile optimized, so you can use it through your mobile. Obviously, it's not a native application. I haven't heard many people say that this was an issue for them. I personally use Oktopost for our own marketing, and I check it very often on both my tablet and my phone. So in terms of the roadmap, it's not there right now, but we are working to make sure that it's as optimized as possible for the web. For mobile. Okay. Another question, a fairly simple question, is how important is keyword research and SEO for content marketing in your opinion?
Okay, so I have SEO has a place of respect in a lot of industries, and it's a depends answer. But in the industries that I work with, and like I said, I work at the beginning, we work with companies trying to get their content into the hands of medium to large enterprises. What we find is that they are not necessarily going into Google and only reading the top three the top three things that they find. That doesn't happen. But they are interacting with their peers or using social media tools to find more information. Because, like I said, Google doesn't help them on the fear and risk side. They want to get other people to tell them that the product that they're going to buy is good, and that's why a lot of their search is done on social media. So that I would say, how important is it? It's important. But if you're going to put all of your eggs in that basket, I don't think you're going to find really good results. And the other thing is that content done properly, on your blog continuously, adding to it, and using your keywords will eventually get you to the same result.
Right. Definitely. I definitely would second that. I found that writing quality content is really the best SEO you can do, loading up on keywords and things like that. And I really think that writing quality, valuable content that people are going to read is the most powerful tool that you can have. So we have a question here, which I also am interested in, is, what do you think about the new LinkedIn publishing platform?
I think it presents some really awesome opportunities. I do not have a deeper answer than that, as we are learning it just like everybody else.
Right. I've actually tested it out a little bit, and I found that my posts on the publisher tool actually get more views than a lot of the posts I do on our blog. So I would suggest to our attendees to if you have a chance to check it out. Here is a question all the way from Finland. So she'd like to know, what are the best ways to engage with people in order for them to write content for you, as well as, not only writing, but also to share your information with others. So the best way to kind of engage people to become evangelists for you.
Well, I think first, you need to have great content to start with. So, I don't think that's part of your question, but finding people to write good content, that is probably one of the biggest the biggest challenges even I have as a company and every other company has out there, because not always is it easy, even if you're a great writer, is it easy for them to write about your technology, which is of course seemingly exciting to you, but how do you make that exciting to the rest of the world? Once you build up some interesting content that will engage your potential audience, then you'll be able to build relationships with those other thought leaders, which are not always your competitors, but could be bloggers or writers, in your vertical, and that they will then of course promote it onward. So it's not always about getting someone on TechCrunch to write; it's to get them to notice you and write about it. So, and that can be done, like I said, developing relationships and doing great. Doing great content. Another thing that we see work quite often is that we can, once we've gained some inroads with them and started that relationship, we can write for them and ask them to promote promote your original unbiased content.
Yeah, those are some excellent tips. So we have a question here about LinkedIn best practices, and the question is regarding how to walk the fine line between not over posting in certain LinkedIn discussion groups so that you'll seem spammy, but being able to be out there enough that people know who you are and you can create thought leadership. So it's kind of, how do you walk that fine line?
It is a fine line. It is a fine line in that it's so easy today to go and you go into a lot of these LinkedIn groups and you see so much. I think I get that. I hear that a lot as well. It's like, aren't those LinkedIn groups just full of salespeople posting stuff about their company? And that is true, and that's the opportunity as well, because if you are doing the posting correctly, then you're going to engage people in real discussions rather than just trying to get people to say how I have the greatest widget to slice bread, come and read this blog. That's not going to get any engagement. But if you write about, I don't know, if you're a hammer company and you write about how better to do construction jobs and some experience you had and what do people think about using a nail or a screw, apologize for not being an expert in that area, but that might generate a proper discussion, and you'll stand out from that crowd. About over posting, it's definitely never a good idea to be posting minute after minute, and that's where using the proper tools come into place that can spread those posts over time and over different groups. So if you have 10 pieces of, or let's just say 4 pieces of content you want to promote this week, you'll make sure that the same group doesn't get the same content or even different content from you in the same day or in the same week. And that's all about using the right tool.
And it's totally true. And that's a very interesting thing to point out, that it creates an opportunity for you to stand out. If you're doing it right, then people are going to see you as not the spammer, but as a valuable part of that group. So that's actually a really great insight. I guess the last question I'll take a look at here is, what do you think about using content creation sites such as Textbroker, etc.? Is that something that you're familiar with?
I am not familiar with Textbroker. I am very wary about auto creation or even using. I'm familiar with other. I won't name any other sites that help bring low-cost content, and at the end of the day, you get what you pay for.
Right. That's true. Okay, I think that's all the time we have for today. I want to really thank you so much, Perry, for joining us today. I got so much out of your presentation. And just to let our attendees know, we did record the presentation. Keep an eye out on your email. We're going to be sending you a link in the next day or two via email, and feel free to watch it and send it to your friends. I thank you very much for joining us, both Perry and all our attendees. And thanks again. We have these customer hosted webinars up once every month, so I look forward to having you guys come to our next one. All right. Thanks again, Perry, and everybody have a great day.